Hello, my name is Michal Roch. I'm the developer of Lords and Villains, and this is my 15-minute talk about solo development for indies. I named it Practical Guide to Solo Dev for Indies. So to open up, I would like to start with a famous quote. In the era where you can do anything, choose to do everything. Probably you can say Einstein didn't actually say this, but I kind of like this attitude. So if this is your mindset, maybe this talk is for you. But what actually means to do everything on a game? There's a lot of tasks to be done, and I would like to list them down just to see how much work it actually is, because it seems like a nice idea to be able to do everything alone, but when you actually see everything on paper, it becomes a little bit too much. So here we go. We have writing code, obviously, making art for the game. We can be creating the audio, including music, sound effects, designing the game, spending a lot of time thinking about what is the right game mechanic for the game, game dynamics as well, long-term content, all of that stuff that's part of game design. Making the content itself, using the tools that you make for yourself to be faster, balancing the game so it's fun, testing the game and finding bugs, deploying your builds on all kinds of platforms where your game is available. That takes a lot of time as well. Thinking about code architecture, how do you want to structure your code, especially if you have a big project that is very important. Branding your product, so where do you position on the market and what do you want to do? Who is your target audience? You'll have to think about that and make your research, and that also takes time. Doing marketing, thinking about your strategy, where you're going to reach your target audience and how you're going to talk to them, and create a lot of content that is not part of the game, but people need to see it to discover your game. You need to do a lot of business development, because even though you are working alone, you still need to be working with partners and thinking about how your business will grow in the future. You will be writing a lot of text, be it for the game or for the marketing. You will also do a lot of community management and administration and project management, all the boring usual stuff that we all have to do. So looking at all of this, that's quite a lot, but then it feels like this, and that's kind of fun. I kind of enjoy this feeling to be like one-man band that can play really, really nice songs that people enjoy. It's just a different kind of experience. So again, if you're not discouraged by this, let's see, what does it mean in practice? So looking at this list, in reality, what am I actually competent at? I think these are the skills that I don't really have developed thus far. So whenever I'm doing anything from branding, marketing, business development, I struggle a lot, and it takes me a lot of time, and I do a lot of mistakes. All these other things, I think I can do somewhat well, like code architecture or making the art or creating the audio, but I'm definitely not professional. I'm not up there in terms of people who focus on it as their career path. And then there's the writing code and designing the game and testing, which are the things that I spent doing the most in my previous experience. And so I feel pretty confident doing those things, but it's just less than 20% of all of those tasks. So that's going to show somewhere, right? Well, compare it to a team where you have 5 people and everybody is competent in their own area. So you have the dedicated programmer, dedicated artist, dedicated composer. Then everything is green and nice, and everybody can do a much better job as a result, right? So comparing those two together, it doesn't really seem like a great idea to be a solo developer. The question then becomes, if teams are so great, why do it alone? What is there to gain? And I will present you 5 reasons that I think can be very useful and be a good motivator to try it, but they're definitely not they're not everything. There's other side as well, and I'm going to talk about it later. So the first reason is people are people. Why deal with people if we can just make the game? There is a lot of communication that needs to happen whenever you are working in a team, and you need to cooperate with others and make sure that everybody feels heard, not hurt, and discuss the ideas together and find the best solutions. And that takes a lot of time. If you can just do the game alone, you can save that time and invest it in the product. So it's just a different kind of mindset. And sometimes people can be difficult and the experience can be also pretty horrible, so you can save yourself that. Second reason is artistic integrity. Certain things just can't happen if you compromise on your vision. And if you are working in a team, it is always the case that everybody wants to feel part of the project, especially in indie market. So people want to have their input on how the game shapes, and you will eventually have to sacrifice on what you would like in the game, just so that people feel motivated to work on it. And so working alone saves you that again. You don't have to sacrifice on anything, almost. Third reason is self-growth. If you explore all of these avenues, you will grow, and your perception of game development as a whole will shift. You will gain a lot of appreciation for all the tasks that go into making a game, and you appreciate game development as an art form even more because you can see how all these things connect together and what they can achieve in combination. I think that's something that is much harder to gain if you're working in isolation on your own thing and you never try all the other parts of game development. So at the very least, it might be a good idea to try solo develop one project to see how it feels, and then decide if you want to keep doing that as your long-term strategy. Fourth reason is independence. If you become confident in your craft, you get more freedom to choose what you really want. I've heard a lot of people doubting themselves if they can make an art, if they can compose a song for their game, because let's say you're a programmer and you've never done art, and it can be very difficult to convince yourself that you can learn to do some art, and then you will feel that you are forced to a relationship with somebody, and you have to work with somebody else, and that kind of will force you potentially into a relationship that you don't really want. So if you actually sit down and learn those things and become independent in that sense, you will feel much more free to decide who you actually want to work with, and you will not end up in those relationships that you don't really enjoy. Fifth reason is feeling proud. I think everybody wants to feel proud about their achievements and what they can do with their craft. And it's just a different kind of achievement. Definitely it is a big achievement to finish a game in a team, but it's just as big achievement to make it alone, and different people care about different things. So if you feel more drawn to this kind of achievement, then it can be a big motivator as well. So that's all great, but is it really for me, or rather for you? There is a lot of downsides to it, so let's start with the first one. You can easily get stuck in your own head. If you are just in your own project, working on it every day, and never really talking to anyone, you can get stuck in all kinds of thoughts. Either the game is really bad and nobody likes it, and I'm like bad as a programmer or designer, or you can go the other way and you can think, oh, my game is perfect and it's going to be really great and sunshine, and then it isn't. So there is a really big importance in having some self-reflection and being able to get yourself out of your own head and talk to other people about your project still, even if you are working on it alone. Nobody else will motivate you as well. If you are working alone in a team, you don't have this shared feeling of, oh, we're doing this together and next year we're going to do that, and planning. It's just you. And so you have to motivate yourself. There rarely will be other people who will tell you and push you every day to keep working on it. Of course, you get support from your peers, but nothing really matches being in a team together. And so in that sense, there is a bigger expectation to be able to motivate yourself. This is kind of a pitfall because working alone protects you from others. And I just want to put this here because it can feel like escapism. Like you decide to work alone on a project because you don't like dealing with people. And I would like to warn you that this is not really a good idea because at the end of the day, you still need to be able to listen to feedback to improve. It's not about hiding from people. So don't do it if you're not okay with criticism. I would actually encourage you to work in a team if you feel like that's a problem, because that's the way to kind of get used to it. And all the stress will rest on your shoulders. I can't even count how many times I felt like I can't really do this and I can't really finish the game and it's too much because I'm just a single person, or comparing myself to other people who have a team of 10 people and how big of a difference that is. Because these approaches are really uncomparable. The difference is so big that you can't really apply the same measurements as you would on bigger teams. So it's kind of a pitfall, and that creates a lot of stress. So you should have a mindset where you want to enjoy that, because sometimes it's going to be difficult and you would want to give up, but at the end of the day you should be able to say, I still have no regrets and I enjoyed it because I grew in the process. This is a big point. It relates to the stress as well, because your productivity will be very limited by default, just from the fact that you're just one person with two hands and 24 hours in a day, and that's only if you don't sleep. You should be fine with slow growth and losing on opportunities. There will be many moments when you will see like, oh, there's this kind of conference that I could participate or put my game out there and everybody will talk about it, and it feels like there is not enough time to participate in everything. And every time you have to say no to something, it's like you're losing a potential opportunity that can make your game really great and successful. And that's very hard to accept, but it's the way it is if you decide to work alone. That's kind of what you're trading in for it. So I would say this is the mindset that you should be going into solo dev, that you will be having a slow growth and you will be saying no to a lot of opportunities just because you're not able to fulfill all of them. And it's not all black and white either. The solo dev kind of implies that you're working alone and you don't need anybody, and that's not really true. Just to release the game on Steam, you need somebody on Steam side to push the button and make your game visible on a store page. There's really nothing like working alone, especially in this world. And so at the end of the day, you always will be working with somebody. So rather think of it as a spectrum. Because there is a line that you can move and you can decide for yourself where you want to be on that line. So you can consider a lot of different things. You can consider the size of your team. You can be just one person, you can work with a buddy, or you can make a team of 10 people, depending on your situation and the position and finances that you have available for yourself. You can be working with a publisher or not. You can decide, I'm going to make all of the marketing myself, but then you're sacrificing on the development. You can decide to outsource certain things. So you will be working with freelancers on one-time cooperation, and then you're going to move on. Or you're going to build long-term relationships and make somebody part of your team. You can also seek investment, although it is very hard as a solo developer to get investment because investors usually want quick return, and that ties to the slow growth, so that would be very difficult. You can also be seeking peer support, moving into a place like Spell Collective and share your experience with others. And again, you are gaining something that is part of the game development process for you. And you can also be relying on your players. You can build a community, engage with them, let them help you test the game or find bugs or give you feedback. Yeah. So summing this all up, I would say it's more about your situation. What are your options? Like for me, why I decided to be a solo dev was because I was mostly working on the game as a hobby during the nights or overtime after work, just to relax and do something fun. And I just kept doing it for so long that the game started to shape up into something real. So by the time I decided to actually perceive it as my career path, I was like, I already have a pretty good game, which came a long way, and I've done everything alone so far, and I kind of enjoyed it. So I decided to stick with it forward. I'm not going to stay solo dev forever, especially if the game eventually will become successful and there will be some income from it. I definitely want to work with more people, but for my situation, this gives me a lot of independence and freedom, also a lot of self-growth, a lot of experience that I can use later, and it's a lot of enjoyment. So with all of this stress, there is always an upside as well. And so that's why I decided to do it. Other people might be in different situations, then they might have finances to share, or they might not just enjoy working on it alone, so they would not choose that. And that's why I want to say, as a kind of a closing thought, it's not about better or worse working alone or with other people. It's just about what makes you happy, because working on a game should make you happy. It's not just about the money, and it shouldn't be. You should enjoy the process. And so I would encourage you to look at your situation. What are you missing in your life? And maybe game development could somehow bring that to your life. And that depends on working with people or working alone, it's going to bring you different things. So I hope this short talk gave you some perspective on what is the difference, and you can have some easier time deciding in the future. Lastly, I would like to encourage you to go and check out my game Lords and Villains on Steam and wishlist it. That will really help me. And if you want to reach out and talk about something later, here's a contact on me on the screen, so feel free to reach out. That's it from me. Wish everybody a nice conference and have a nice day.
Thank you for the presentation. How long were you in this limbo mode, doing this as a hobby after work? And now, how long have you done it alone in a solo mode?
Mm-hmm. I started in the beginning of 2018, and I was working in a company that I've been building with my friends. So I could work pretty much part-time job, like 80 hours a month, and I would have a lot of remaining time to work on this game. So this has been going for about 2 years. And during this time, I was also finishing my university studies. So it was not all on the game, but I had a lot of free time that I could put into the project. And about a year ago, I moved to Sweden, and I decided to quit my previous company and start a new one and focus on this game almost full time. So now I'm just doing freelancing to sustain myself, but I don't need to do a lot, and I have a lot of time to do this alone. So for the past year, almost, it's been pretty much full time. Yeah, right now I'm in a situation where I'm trying to release it in early access and grow the team and quit the freelancing completely as well. So it keeps growing and moving forward.
Thank you.
And one more question was over here.
Hey, so you showed a slide where you showed that you're good at 3 things, but so how do you do the rest of the stuff? Do you cut a lot of corners, or yeah, how do you do it?
Yeah, thanks for the question. For example, the pixel art part, that was really hard for me because I never done it before on a production level. I was just playing and fooling around and see how it works. But I'm always interested in art and visual things, and I try to think about them. So I was in a good place to go and start learning it on my own. But it took me a lot of trial and error to basically develop the skills for this game to make at least something that I can use. I'm definitely not happy with it in terms of final production level. I really want to improve the quality, but my goal with this was to get it to something that I can start offering to people. So it is part of the game, and you can enjoy the game without feeling like this level of graphics is really ugly and you can't enjoy the game for it. To help me get myself to a place where I can hire somebody who is professional and can do much better job with it and work on the assets. And it also helps me a lot with the pipeline when I will be working with somebody, because I could figure out a lot of the things about size of the assets and how to import them in the game. So right now everything is super streamlined, and I can cut down on costs when I will eventually be working with an artist, because a lot of the stuff will already be figured out and the artist will not have to spend time on it doing this trial error on his own. So I can save money this way as well. Regarding the other things like audio, I had just a lot of hobbies, so that really helps when you want to do self-development. Look at how many hobbies you have. If you have a lot of them, you are in a good starting point. I'm doing music for many years already, playing a lot of instruments, so I feel like I'm in a good position to pick up composition skills as well. And again, for this project, I just went and learned something. So whatever I didn't have before, the way I just did it was just sit down and start working on it and develop the skill eventually to some level that I can use and feel comfortable having it in the game. But I can also recognize there is a cost to it, that the quality just doesn't compare to somebody who is doing it for much longer and focuses on it much more.
Hey, let's give big thanks and big applause to Michal. Thank you very much for joining us today.